If you grew up in the 90s, you were probably aware of the masterpiece, The Gift from the Heavens, the most quotable movie of all time, Tombstone. Now, I've seen a lot of movies in my day, and I don't know of any other movie that delivers so many memorable scenes. A lot of times when you watch movies today, they're good, but there may only be one or two scenes where you're like, oh, I love this part. Tombstone, on the other hand, was the perfect storm of great writing, great actors, and a cool story. And almost every scene had a line that worked its way into people's vernacular. So what exactly made this movie so good? This was just a movie that was essentially a modern Western. It would make sense if it was popular amongst our dads or grandfathers, but why was it so loved by the younger audiences? Well, one of the first reasons was the cast. Tombstone, for the most part, revolves around Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp, which were played by Val Kilmer and Kurt Russell, respectively. And I'd wager there was not a soul on earth who could have played these roles better. Let's face it, they were just cool. Kilmer and Russell each portrayed the perfect balance of masculinity without being over the top, bravery without impulsivity, and confidence without the cockiness. They also depicted being well-educated as an asset and not just something that made you like a nerdy introvert. When presented with injustice or conflict, Earp consistently maintained control of the situation. You just could not intimidate the guy. I would make the case that this movie is an example of the ideal masculinity. The second draw to this movie was the storyline. This movie is obviously based on the actual shootout at the OK Corral between Wyatt Earp, who was a real person, and members of the Cowboys, a group of outlaws who actually also existed. They took artistic license here and there to control the flow of the movie, but overall, the writer and director of Tombstone weaved a really engaging story that showed Earp's begrudging return to law enforcement, the true impact of crime on a community, and insight into the motives of a criminal. Curly Bill, although a jerk, still had his own charm, but Johnny Ringo had a particular charisma about him. Johnny Ringo is actually more of a tortured soul with an unfortunate life that almost understandably leads to a life of being a villain. Alas, none of this redeems him, and in the end, only one can be left standing. Lastly, hilarious one-liners are peppered throughout this movie, from Doc Holliday's catchphrase, "I'm your Huckleberry," to Wyatt Earp's sharp retorts. Everything about this script further solidifies Tombstone as one of the best movies ever. So, if you've never seen it, or it's one of those great movies you just haven't thought about in a long time, I encourage you to go check out Tombstone.